Starting recording again. This is the final, what was it, 15 minutes? Shit, I lost track of time. No, final 40, about 40 minutes. And we're back on. All right. There's Melody says, it's a squish. Yes, it's a me. It's a me! Scruffy squish. Just over 42 minutes. All right, cool. Sucks. I had to like friggin' stop the recording also, so that's how I usually keep track of these things. But yeah, 42 minutes. That sounds good. I'm glad you're keeping track. But I had to restart the whole OBS software for it to start streaming again. Fucking piece of shit.
Later on down the road, we also found some dead cattle in another part of the county. We were told by the owner that he had been having problems with some cattle mutilations and thought this something that I had shot at was also killing his livestock. I know it was not the same thing because the killings were different. Another man who we spoke to had said that this goat that was killed had its stomach completely ripped open, just like the others, left there to rot. My report and statement was only taken so far, with this creature having jumped on top of me. I'm surprised it did not kill me, but it did give me some pretty severe trauma that I have to live with. I can tell you that whatever this thing was not a normal human or an animal. This was something else altogether, maybe an unknown species of some kind, something that science probably will deny. My partner and I first heard these stories from a coworker who overheard another officer talking about it. We thought and were convinced they were making the whole thing up. But one night, me and my partner decided to drive around the park to see if we can find anything weird for ourselves. We head down this lone dirt road, tall grass on either side, and suddenly three deer burst out in the dark to our right. Our headlights caught them moving just as they ran into the trees on the left. So naturally, we could tell they were being chased by something. We turned off the headlights and began moving very slowly and keeping an eye out for anything big. We drove slowly, more and more down this winding road, until finally something came in view in front of us. It looked like a large hairy man crouched over, and as soon as it came out, you could just see its silhouette against the cold night sky. Since it was so dark, I couldn't see much, but the thing kind of turned around and began moving in our direction, and then moved away. As soon as my partner and I saw it, we got this really weird feeling, like something terrible was about to happen. So we quickly turned our headlights on. By that point, it was already gone. We pulled out of there, left pretty quickly. I don't even want to acknowledge what that could have been. I don't think I'm ready to accept that reality just yet. Lately, I've been seeing a lot more stories on Reddit about Yowie sightings and encounters. So, I myself was driving home one evening and saw something that disturbed me to my core. Myself and two fellow officers were driving down this country road towards the station. It was maybe right about 1 in the morning, after a very long shift. The roads can be pretty dangerous sometimes, and we're always on high alert for anything out of the ordinary. We spotted something up ahead, near an old abandoned building, so we slowed down to see what it was. It was the movement that caught our eye. As we got closer, I realized it was not any animal we'd ever seen. It was tall, bipedal, hairy, with big eyes, and had claws like a bear, but it clearly was not a bear. But like a bear, it also stood upright. It was just standing there looking right at us. It did not have any clothes on either, so I was pretty rattled. We pulled up about several hundred feet away, stopped to get a better look at it. We knew this wasn't one of the new aliens they're always talking about. This was something else. Though I will admit, we're all fairly seasoned officers. This thing really spooked us, enough that one of my fellow officers turned around right then, and drove off without saying anything to me or my other friend. He must have had his reasons that he took off, while we were still in the process of trying to find out what happened. This thing began making strange sounds. We tried to get a closer look, but we felt too afraid to get closer. I feel like had we gotten out of the car and gone up the hill to where this was, whatever that thing was, it would have attacked us. Was it a yowie? It just had this sort of dangerous demeanor about it. So we decided to leave it instead. I'm kind of glad my partner took off. I think he knew something I did not back then. I know for sure now, though. Cryptids are real, and Yowie is one of them for sure. In fact, my childhood friend saw another one years ago in the forest near his home. Once we were young teenagers. He's been trying to convince me ever since that all those other stories we've heard are probably true. I guess we know that he was right about at least some of them. I don't know what's going on, but I'm glad to see there are others out there like me and my friend who believe in these creatures and are not afraid to speak out about it. It's time we get the word out that they are real. People need to recognize this kind of thing is happening every day all around us, even if most people can't see it or just simply refuse to accept it. That and stop perpetuating the stories and rumors about Sasquatch and Bigfoot being demons or something. We know better than that by now, right? Hancock County, Mississippi. Law enforcement officials have received reports of a large bipedal creature in the vicinity of the Stennis Space Center. A young officer was one of the several to encounter this unknown animal that is believed to be Bigfoot. The police officer's submitted report reads as follows: a huge creature on two legs, running faster than any human I've ever seen. I don't know what it was, but all I could think about was getting out of there without my gun drawn. The officer had completed his night shift at roughly 11:30 p.m., had gone home with his girlfriend, who had picked him up for the drive home. After dropping her off, he began driving north on Highway 607 toward Bay St. Louis when he noticed headlights of another vehicle behind him. He slowed down, allowing the vehicle to pass him, but noticed that it did not. He then noticed that it had its high beams on and motioned for this unknown vehicle that was tailgating him to turn them off via finger gesture. I started slowing down, getting over to let this person pass me, thinking I could get a look at them or their license plate number when they pulled up to my driver's side door. The officer pulled his car over onto the shoulder of Highway 607 in order to get out of the way, only to find himself face to face with a very hideous man, or so he thought. What he was actually seeing in the shoulder of the road was a Bigfoot creature. The bipedal creature walked around his patrol car while he got out into a firing stance, unholstered his firearm. The unknown creature was obviously not threatened by the officer, as it then walked into the wooded area right near Highway 607, disappearing from sight. While this officer is certain that what he encountered was a Bigfoot, he also reported an incident of having his patrol car go dead while inside the buffer zone of the Stennis Space Center at roughly 3:34 a.m. He will be filing a subsequent report to his original encounter report with this new information in it. I was off duty when this happened, but I was also in my uniform still and in a police car. I was driving to the gym, and I get a call from dispatch saying that there was an officer down at the local high school where a kid had been stabbed by another student. This made me drive faster since any school violence is extremely dangerous for anybody involved. Even though I'm off shift, I feel like it's my personal duty to attend. As I'm pulling into the parking lot, which is adjacent to the football field, I see a massive black figure running along the fence line, about 15 feet off the ground. I had to do a double take. It looked like two legs, but then there were four. It looked almost human, but too big. Its arms were outstretched, as if trying to climb or something, or just stretch out. It then leapt from one side of the fence to the other, effortlessly, which made no sense. It was easily 10 to 15 feet in the air. It then ran over to the top of the car, and I have no idea what or who this thing was, but it let out this strange guttural yell that made my skin crawl. I can write all of this up in my report when I get back, but I don't think they'll believe me. I figured I would submit this anyway because it's been too long and I still remember this thing vividly. As far as the time and place goes, we were down by the river at night, looking for an abandoned car with drugs inside of it. We didn't find any, so we're just cruising back home. Top lights off because it's late. And suddenly, something darts out in front of our police cruiser from the right side. So I swerve left to avoid hitting whatever it is at 50 kilometers an hour, or whatever the speed limit was at the time. Next thing I know, I've got a face full of bloodied fur and all sorts of smells, like somebody's thrown up their KFC gravy all over. Same thing for my partner who's driving. When we get out to inspect whatever it is we've hit, we're both just like, what is that? It was an awful stench. We look around and don't see anything apart from the big patch of dirt and bloodied fur or whatever. Sorry I'm not good with visual details, and bits of gore all over the road.
Better
It wasn't until
reconnect, you
recently
piece
when I
of
began doing research for this
shit.
type of stuff. At home, I found out what it could have been. A young juvenile Bigfoot. This was a strange humanoid looking creature. This was all that was left of it. Don't laugh. This is the only explanation we can find.
30
The
minutes,
smell
Melody
that it left
says.
behind was horrendous. It was the
Sweet.
most musty, stinky stank I've ever smelt. We decided not to tell anybody. We would have been the laughingstock of the entire county. We just stuck with our story and said we hit a large dog. Nothing more ever became of it. Besides,
Fucking
nobody
shit.
would have believed us anyway. I was riding back from a 3-day stint out in the desert with my squad. We were assigned to
Stream
protect a
isn't
convoy
reconnecting.
that was carrying vital supplies for our own troops. I don't know what it was exactly, but they told us if anything happened to those trucks, then the war would have been even more devastating than what it already is. I just work as an officer, not some military strategist. Anyhow,
Come
being out in the
on.
open desert with nothing but